and welcome to the webinar today. We're super excited to be spending this time with you. In fact, I might get in trouble for saying this, but I think this is the highest registration for a webinar that we've had all year. So super excited to dive into new capabilities of Veeam Data Cloud, and specifically our integration with Microsoft 365 backup storage today. My name is Russ Kirscher. I'm a Senior Director at Product Marketing here at Veeam, and I will be joined by the Rickatron, Rick Vanover, our VP of Product Strategy. Rick, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, I think I'm off mute. It won't work.
Yeah, you're good. I can hear you.
Oh, okay, weird. It was spinning. Ah, goodness. Live is live. So hello, everyone. Rick Vanover here. I'm in my 14th year on the Veeam. Nope, then it went back off, didn't it? So, sorry about that. I'm going to just leave it live. Hey, Russ. Rick Vanover on the product team. I've been at Veeam. This is my 14th year. Super happy to be with us talking about the next chapter of Veeam and some really important stuff. So, sorry about my audio. Just going to leave it live.
No worries, it happens. And also just wanted to take a minute and introduce Drago Petrovic. Drago is a Swiss Serbian principal marketing Microsoft cloud architect and Microsoft MVP. So super excited to have Drago join us today. Drago, how you doing?
Hi guys. Hey, I'm doing well. Thank you for having me here. Yeah, I think you said already almost everything about me, about my introduction. I'm from Switzerland. I'm living in Switzerland. Working for one of the largest companies in Switzerland regarding IT. And yeah, happy to be a part of this webinar.
Yeah, we're glad to have you. Drago, do you do a lot of webinars like this with vendors like Veeam?
I do webinars quite a lot, but if I'm honest, I'm a bit picky about doing webinars with vendors. I actually do webinars almost only with Veeam, and there is another huge vendor in the market. And the reason why I do like this, it's I only make webinars with vendors about products I'm using by myself, and I truly believe in that, and I have experience in that, and I really can be in a very positive, honest way to talk about it. So yes, I do webinars, but actually only with 2 vendors, and one of those is Veeam.
Well, we're glad to be on the short list, so thanks for joining us today. So just a few quick housekeeping items as we get the party started today. We always get some of these questions, so just going to cover them up front. First of all, we are recording this session. We will be posting it and sending it out afterwards. You can always find our webinars afterwards in the on-demand webinars section of our website on the resources tab, so expect it to go live there in the next day or two. And you'll see inside the user interface a place for chat messages and a place for Q&A. We have a few other members on our staff here to help us with Q&A while we're presenting. So please go ahead, drop anything you want into the Q&A panel, and we have some people standing by to help get those questions answered. All right, let's go ahead and get started. The agenda today. So we're actually going to do something a little different today. Instead of diving straight into technology, we're going to start with a little bit of an Olympic story, and then there's a correlation from that Olympic story into introducing Veeam Data Cloud, and very specifically our integration with Microsoft 365 backup storage. So we'll give you an overview of the technology and the inner workings of those capabilities, and then we'll turn it over to Rick, and you're going to see a live demo. So we're going to do a live demo of our capabilities inside Veeam Data Cloud for Microsoft 365 backup storage, so you can see how to create backups and see how to do restores. After the demo, we'll spend a little bit more time talking about the packaging that we have inside Veeam Data Cloud, and then a few just next steps for you to take away. Things to share with coworkers or look at after the presentation today. And then we'll go into some live Q&A. So we'll take some of the questions that came in through the Q&A panel, in addition to answering them to you. If we find it relevant for the whole group, we'll just go ahead and share the question and answer aloud at the end of the session if we have time. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into this Olympic story that I'm just excited to share with the group. We're fresh off the Olympics when we were making this presentation last week. The Olympics were fresh in my mind, and I just came up with this interesting question that I want to propose to the audience and see what your thoughts are. But before we dive in, Drago, Rick, was there a certain Olympic event that you just really enjoyed watching this year?
Rick?
Oh, well, mine was the Parade of Nations, the opening ceremony, because
Mm,
much like Microsoft 365, this is something that applies to everyone. It is something that is like inclusive. This service is very popular if you're here, if you're listening. So I draw the analogy there, Russ, because I really like the opening ceremony. A lot of optimism and hope. And that's where we are with M365 as well.
I love it.
Yeah, for me, it's actually quite easy. Tennis. We won the gold medal with Novak Djokovic. So that was, of course, the top highlight. And of course, basketball. Unfortunately, we just made third place, so bronze medal with Serbia. But it was still fun to watch, and they were celebrating the bronze medal as if they won gold. So that were my two main highlight points on this Olympic.
Love it. Thanks for sharing. And the audience, if you want to drop in chat your favorite event that you'd like to watch, please feel free to participate with us. I think my favorite was just watching sports that I never normally get to watch. I watched rugby. I really enjoyed handball. I didn't know anything about handball. And it was just fun to take in some new activities. So let's go ahead and move forward, and just wanted to propose this question to you is, how much faster do you think an Olympic 100-meter sprinter has become in 100 years? So if we compare the Olympic sprinter of today versus the Olympic sprinter of 100 years ago, how much faster have they become? And as we start to unpack this, go ahead and move on to the next slide. Some of you probably saw the photo finish in the men's 100-meter sprinting contest. It was pretty amazing. And in fact, there's this great image. If you jump over to Google Images to find this image, please come back in just a few seconds. But there's this great image of the sprinters moving the whole way down the track, and it's a still shot of them in 10-meter increments. And you can see how close they are together in every single part of the race. But they track the 100-meter sprint in the hundredths of a second. And you can see on screen that Noah Lyles, who came in first place, and Kashane Thompson, that came in second place, had the exact same time when you look at hundredths of a second. So they had to go to thousandths of a second to actually see who won this race. It was pretty astonishing. The difference in this race was 5 thousandths of a second. When you put into consideration that these people spent their entire lives building up to this moment, and it came down to 5 thousandths of a second. It's pretty amazing. Now let's go ahead and compare that to 100 years ago, which was the question that I proposed at the beginning. And you can see Noah Lyles' time on the left side of the screen and Kashane Thompson's time. But compare that to Harold Abrams' time 100 years ago at the Paris Olympics, and his score was 10.6. So looking at this analysis, you can go on to the next screen. You can see the difference between these two gentlemen is 0.81 seconds faster. Which, as soon as I heard that, I was thinking, that's it? In 100 years? It's not even a second. That's as far as we have advanced in our society, is 0.81 seconds. And that was my reaction. And then it's kind of a discussion in my household right now. My wife had the opposite reaction. She said, well, that's amazing that the athletes have been able to advance almost a full second faster in 100 years. I mean, the human body is the human body, and it's amazing that they were able to advance that far. So if you have an opinion, go ahead and drop it in chat as far as that's a lot faster, that's not a lot faster. Rick, what do you think when you see that number? Is that crazy
Well,
fast, or is that
it's
shocking?
fast. I am not fast, but I think it is incredible. And then where will we be 100 years from now? And I'm stealing your own slides here, Russ, but there's a lot of reasons on how we got there. We got there from technology. I think each of these are representing technology. Okay. And that is a big difference maker.
Yeah, for sure. What do you think, Drago?
From the human body side, it's a big thing, but I think there's still some air up because, as Rick just said, we have better shoes. We have better possibilities to make trainings, to go more particular on the right muscles, the more technique and everything. We have different tracks and like all those things, especially by knowing professional sport. I think it is an unbelievable. I mean, I couldn't make it in 9 seconds in 10. I even could make it in 15 seconds, I guess. But it's not about myself. It's about these top athletes. And I think regarding the technology we have, I think we still can maybe crack the 9 seconds mark early or lately. But that's it. That's it. Like
Right.
all beyond will be bionic. So.
Well, I
Yeah.
think we
No,
should also say I think we have better clocks, okay? Because I
mm,
don't know if we had the ability to do the thousandth definitely 100 years ago.
that's right. Definitely didn't.
Swiss watch, I
That's a
guess
great idea.
they were able to do that.
Oh, okay. There we go.
So moving on to the next slide, and this is the biggest part that I want you to take away from this as we land this plane and move into the technology is that um, Noah Lyles' time was 162 times faster than Abrams 100 years ago by comparison to Thompson. So just kind of like let that settle in for a second. 162 times faster. You see those kinds of accelerations in technology sometimes, but in most parts of our life, multiplying something by 1 or 2 might be astronomical, but 162 times faster when you compare Abrams to Thompson. It's pretty interesting.
So one comment, Russ, and this is, I think, the perfect segue to where we're going with this with Microsoft 365 backup storage. I'm bald. We're live. This is real. I remember a time when I provisioned email accounts with 10 megabyte quotas on the account, and now attachments that big are nothing. Or file systems and file servers. I remember I freaked out the first time I had this terabyte or petabyte type server storage deployment on premises. Now, I like to say EFS, email file system, or OneDrive is the file server now. This is the data. This is where it's at. And so much like there's been growth in the Olympic speed, the data has grown and moved into Microsoft 365. So there's that hook on why we're talking about the Olympics.
Yeah, there's that hook for sure. And as data grows, backups have to be able to handle it, right? They have to be able to scale along with it. So just to kind of bring this back full circle, when we think about most game-changing innovations in our world today, they're actually a result of a bunch of micro advancements or micro innovations working together to kind of create that big advancement. What's significantly different about Microsoft 365 backup storage, and we're excited to talk about that today, it is a single moment in time, a significant breakthrough that will transform Microsoft 365 backup as we know it today. So, businesses can move from struggling to back up and recover large scale volumes of data. What could have taken weeks or months with previous systems can now be done in minutes or hours with Microsoft 365 backup. So that number of 162x, it might not be exactly that number, but it's pretty darn close. And it's really exciting to see such a significant breakthrough come into the market. And we're excited to be a part of it. So as we switch gears, let's dive into Veeam Data Cloud. I'm going to spend just a few slides talking about what Veeam Data Cloud is as a whole, and then we'll really unpack Microsoft 365 backup storage as a part of it as well. So when you think about Veeam Data Cloud as a whole, we like to call it resilient data protection made easy. So Veeam focuses on resilience of data protection. And if you move on to the next slide, Rick, we can see the components inside Veeam Data Cloud. We support Microsoft 365, we support Microsoft Azure, and we also have a storage service called Veeam Vault, where you have the opportunity to back up data from other Veeam products and store it inside of Veeam Vault as a storage service. But when we focus on Veeam Data Cloud, the focus is on confidence without complexity. We want the solution to be easy to use for you and your team, and that you have confidence in the infrastructure underneath that is supporting it. Also, we focus on building inclusive and predictable pricing. So you don't have to worry about data growth and how that data growth is going to affect your backup storage. You have the ability to purchase licensing per user and lock that in and not run into any bill shock scenarios. On the next slide, we unpack backup services a little bit more. So if you're a longstanding Veeam user, you're used to using backup software from Veeam, but what we're focused on right now is a backup service. And if you take the left half of the screen here, what you see is a bunch of core components that are now managed by Veeam inside of the backup service. So you don't have to worry about proxies or building servers or connecting storage. All of that is taken care of for you by the service delivery mechanism. You don't have to worry about updates and patches and maintenance on the system because, again, it's covered by the underlying backup service. On the right side of the screen, you can see the different items that you as a user of a BAS service still have complete access to. Rick, I think I might have just
Well, we
lost
had a
it.
lot of we had a lot of comments about the share not working, so I'm going to just bounce the share and redo it. So sorry to throw you off your
Oh,
talk
no
track there,
worries. I
Russ.
can see
Carry
it.
on.
I can see it good right now. Thank you. On the right side of the screen, you can see your traditional functionality of being able to create backup jobs and restore data inside of the user interface. But we also have optional configuration and functionality built into the backup service where you can customize your backup job. You can set different retention settings. You have all kinds of security features that you can take advantage of, like role-based access control and analytics and insights to give you better visibility into your Microsoft 365 backup data. Drago, I want to go to you with a question. We're talking a lot about backup services and the difference in that compared to backup software. What are some benefits you've seen of businesses moving to a backup services model opposed to traditional deploy and manage backup software?
Well, those things, the key point, I mean, there are many things, but the key point is this is made for cloud services. This is made for Microsoft 365. Like, this is like, let's call it tailored, like for this, what we have for needs today. If you think back in time when everything was on premise, there were many backup solutions, and we have to consider about everything. But the challenge by being in the cloud is a total different one. As you said before, is about proxies, is about the storage capacity, and so on. And I think we have here something which is really tailored for our new needs, for having the possibility to protect our data, which are really located in the cloud. Then, of course, the maintenance is always a big thing. It's on one side, like, what means maintenance? It has also a big meaning. One thing could be like, maybe you have a backup, but do you know if the restore is working? Because maybe something is missing or something is not tested, like in a disaster case. And all this maintenance, like updating or changing things, you don't have that. And this is all covered. And that's why I say that's like really a big plus point about this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you don't need to build, you don't need to maintain. Lots of opportunities to save time and money by using a backup service. Thank you, Drago. Appreciate it.
Russ,
That's,
one thing I want
it's
to
a,
add to this also is
sorry,
that this. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
no, no,
Go
no.
ahead, Drago.
I just wanted to just really underline what you just said. It's about the time we are saving by configuring and maintaining, and this is not to underestimate, because working hours is collected money, like which is banded on the work, which we can maybe do other things. Like, this is just to underline what Russ just said. Sorry, that's all.
No problem. One thing I'll just add, Russ and Drago both, is that my biggest thought of everything included, and this plays right off of Jason's question that came in, is this is an outcome. This isn't an infrastructure. You don't have to worry about the components. You don't have to worry about the sizing in the cloud. That's a
Yeah.
discipline that honestly a lot of people don't have. But the best part is you don't have to have change controls to do updates and upgrades and security fixes. That's a whole operational cost that's removed from the area of responsibility. And pulling Jason's question up right up hot, the backup storage is all included, but it's not really something you configure, right? Now, if you want granular control of your backup storage for Microsoft 365 data, consider Veeam Backup for Microsoft 365, one of the platform extensions, or the offerings from our service providers. This is an all-inclusive offering, and that's a big difference for people who are familiar with Veeam.
Yeah, that's good, Rick. Thanks for adding that. So as we unpack Veeam Data Cloud from Microsoft 365 a little further, Rick just talked about Veeam Backup for Microsoft 365. A lot of our customers know and love Veeam Backup for Microsoft 365. This technology in Veeam Data Cloud was built on top of that industry-leading technology for Microsoft 365 Backup. But it's all built in a modern and secure and intuitive UI that's easy to use and take advantage of a backup service. But the beautiful thing that we're so excited to talk about today is that we have now integrated Microsoft 365 Backup Storage into Veeam Data Cloud for Microsoft 365 Backup. Drago, we've been anticipating Microsoft 365 Backup Storage for a while now. Go back a few months when this was first announced and let me know your first impressions on Microsoft coming out with their own backup technology and how that was really going to shift the ecosystem.
Easiest question I'm gonna hear today. Better any backup than no backup. That was my first thought. That was my really first thought. I mean, as I mentioned earlier, like the data is growing. So as more the data is growing, and we are also talking about single item restore and all this, we are getting to throttling problems, and we are getting to time limits and performance problems. And since Microsoft announced this Microsoft 365 backup, this was a great thing. And I think this product from Microsoft is covering like 70% of the commercial market. And for me, it was very clear in the beginning when I heard this, like one of my first thoughts was vendors like Veeam will come and build something on top using these APIs. And as I'm located in Switzerland, and we are here a little bit, let's say we are like an island in Europe. So we are not just a part of Europe, we are like really an island. And we have very, very strict regulatories. And Veeam gives us like the Swiss knife, if I can make this saying, like we get, first of all, the possibility by using the fast APIs from Microsoft 365 Backup. And with Veeam, we got also the opportunity to have the choice of storage. Like we can have the choice where we would like to back up our data or our customers' data. That can be a bank, that can be whatever it is. Mostly in Switzerland, they are banks. And then if they have regulatories that these backups has to be located and stored in a Swiss data center, that's why also my company where I'm working for, we are really using Veeam as a solution, and we are making huge and a lot of backups to our own data centers. These are like the benefits. Like Veeam, we take Veeam like as a finished product, and we know Veeam is working very stable. We know Veeam can use the Microsoft APIs. Microsoft 365 Backup itself is not for free, but if we take Veeam, this is covered. And we have this possibility like to make the backups to the location we want to, or we have to do regarding regulatories.
Yeah, thanks for adding all that information, Drago. It reminded me to mention our alliance relationship with Microsoft. So we announced a few months back a 5-year roadmap and partnership with Microsoft on co-engineering and co-development work. And Microsoft 365 Backup Storage and that integration is really the first step forward into I'm showing that partnership commitment that we made with Microsoft moving forward.
Hey, Russ, one thing I'll add as we go to the next slide is that really, I like to say partnerships are in Veeam's DNA. Got a bunch of partners. I'm trying to give you answers as quick as I can. And whether it's an alliance, whether it's service providers, whether it's resellers, implementation partners, global systems integrators, partnerships are in Veeam's DNA.
Yeah, thanks, Rick, for adding that. As we go into this slide, we're finally getting to the capabilities inside Veeam Data Cloud with Microsoft 365 Backup Storage. The inherent capabilities are you're going to get lightning fast backup and recovery capabilities, specifically for Exchange, SharePoint, and OneDrive that we've never seen before. I talked earlier about the concept of large scale deployments, being able to be backed up in hours and days instead of weeks and months. We will be getting this capability with Microsoft 365 backup storage. The ability to back up fast also will give the ability to restore fast or do bulk restores at scale. With the ability to do bulk restores at scale, you get increased resilience to ransomware. Currently, if you have trouble getting large amounts of data back at scale, it would be difficult to handle a ransomware attack if you have to wait weeks or months to get your data back, right? But now with the ability to do bulk restores at scale, you get that capability to really be resilient against ransomware attacks. And that's all based on these new APIs from Microsoft where you're not going to be having any throttling issues. So, lots of people have had throttling through the traditional ways of backing up the business. I almost think of it as, trying to drink a thick milkshake through a straw, right? You can only get so much through that straw. But this changes the game, and we're going to be able to back up and restore at scale like never before. On the next slide, I want to unpack a little bit about some of the differentiated capabilities specifically with Veeam, because Microsoft 365 backup storage is also open to other vendors in the ecosystem. And from Veeam, we will be providing advanced security access through the Veeam console, the Veeam Data Cloud console. Think of the ability to restrict IP addresses based on range, the ability to do multi-factor authentication, role-based access controls. There's lots of these capabilities built into Veeam Data Cloud. And when we were able to layer in Microsoft 365 backup storage, they were able to inherently take on these capabilities as well. We will also have dynamic backup policies specifically for distribution lists and security groups. So traditionally in Microsoft 365 backup, if you start to back up a distribution list or a security group, and then you add somebody to that security group, they won't be included in the backup policies that have already been kicked off for that security group. With Veeam, it will be able to dynamically see those changes and be able to add those into your backup jobs automatically. You will also get the ability to export the user activity logs to SIEM or other platforms that you're using. And one of the big benefits is Veeam specifically is going to market with per user pricing, which we have been doing for years for our other Microsoft 365 backup solutions. Embedded in the backup service will be unlimited storage, so you don't have to worry about your Microsoft 365 data growth and how that's going to affect your bill for backup next year or next month. It's all predictable pricing with no bill shock, and that's something that you can use to your advantage. So last slide for me before I turn it over to Rick and we see this demo in action is I just wanted to talk a little bit about the broader picture of the future of Microsoft 365 backup from Veeam. So what we are doing is embedding Microsoft's backup solution or Microsoft 365 backup storage inside of the Veeam Data Cloud. And you can see this visually described at the bottom left part of the screen. We will call this Veeam Data Cloud Express. So the Express capabilities gives you that fast backup and restore that I talked about earlier. On the right side of the screen, this is the product that we have had in market now for the last few years, rebranded to be named Veeam Data Cloud Flex. This is the existing backup service that is growing like crazy right now. We have a lot of customers taking advantage of the flexible and granular restore capabilities, all the customizable backup options, support for Microsoft Teams, which is specifically in the Flex package, and a few other components that really round out a great feature set to be able to take advantage of in your environment. So the decision is really up to you as the customer. Do I want the Express capabilities? Do I want the Flex capabilities? Or is there actually a use case where you need both? And from a Veeam perspective, we believe that this gives you the best of both worlds. You get the speed and scale that comes through Express, and you get the control and flexibility that comes through Flex. When you think about all of the use cases that can hit your Microsoft 365 data, you have some data loss vulnerabilities that you just got to go in and get this one thing and restore it back. And then you'll have the kind of more disaster recovery scenarios of massive bulk restores needed, or a cyber attack where you need something like Express. So, really this balance of speed and scale meets control and flexibility, we expect to be the future for Microsoft 365 backup. I want to turn it back over to you, Drago. I mean, what do you kind of think when you see this new backup method versus the traditional backup method and the balance of those things? How do you see those working in the future?
That's a good question. I think it's you can take two companies and they will be totally different, although they maybe do the same thing. And so they have different requirements. And I see it from the perspective with if I take my Swiss hat on, and for us, it's really like a game or a critical question is like the freedom of choice of the storage location. Since like really there are so many great products out there from Microsoft, from Veeam, and also from other vendors, but we simply cannot use them because they are not fulfilling the requirements which we get from the government side or from the financial institution side. In Switzerland, we call it FINMA. So I think there's a good mix between Express and Flex. Like you have on both sides, like really important things which can be required, like as we see, like the cyberattack recovery point. Because in these moments when you have to recover, the regulatories are maybe sometimes a bit easier to go through. But also I think, especially in my field or where we are using it, it's the freedom of choice. This is like where we are, and this is also the way where I see the future to go. Like it will be in the future, it is already, but in the future, I think it will be even more. It's the hardest way will be to make a backup concept, what you want to backup, how you want to backup, how you want to be able to restore. But then the setup and all the possibility we have, it's simply great. And I think it's going more and more in this direction, so that hopefully one day backupping will be a no-brainer, because it's like the air to breathe. If you don't have a backup, you need it, especially, I mean, the backup is one thing, but the restore, when you need it in any cost, and that's why I think backup will be early or lately like a no-brainer that everyone's going to do it.
Yeah, especially for cloud workloads, right? Because
Yes.
lots of businesses, it's a no-brainer to back up on-prem data sets. But as they move to the cloud, it's the inherent thought that, it's probably covered, right? We've been disclaiming this myth for years now to have people understand.
Yeah, it has to get there where we were 10, 15 years ago with on-premise, and even farther, because everyone thinks, okay, if I have it in the cloud, I don't have to back up because it's safe there. But no, it's not actually. I mean, it's safer than on-premise, but it's still something to do, and that's why it's really important to bring the people back to make the backup from the cloud infrastructure.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for adding that. I appreciate it. Rick, I think it's time to turn it over to you.
Yeah, cheers. A couple of good questions have come into. I'm doing my best. I'm running all these screens and the slides and everything. And so what I want to do with this time of product demo is I want to show you the product in action, and I'm probably going to have to log in because I reconnected here. But what I want to start with is just really introducing Veeam Data Cloud. I know a lot of people, especially from the questions here, really might not know what the offering is. And so this is where you start. I guess, what flavor am I running? I'm running Veeam Data Cloud from Microsoft 365. There was a question, I think, Jason was asking also about Azure. That is available in Veeam Data Cloud as well as Veeam Data Platform, and that's a different control plane within the Veeam Data Cloud, so keep that in mind. But that makes sense because they're very different data sources. So when I log into Veeam Data Cloud, right away, I get very good actionable information. I first of all can see my backups are running. I will say that I have some warnings, and I understand what's going on with that. First of all, this environment was kind of preloaded with some of the capabilities as we launched them last week, so some things didn't expect as normal. This is a lab, bear with me, but nonetheless, backups are running. The other thing that I think is actually my favorite part of Veeam Data Cloud, actually right here from the start, you can see 100%, 27 out of 27 of my backup users are being protected. So this is the console I want to see. This is the information I want. This tells me that the data I care about under management by Veeam has 100% protection. And then the other thing I'll highlight is we can take a look at our journey of retention, right? So kind of answer some of those compliance options that you might get. I might say that I target 7 years retention with the offering I have with Veeam Data Cloud. This environment has been subscribed for 10 months and 3 days from that date in October on, so we're on our journey towards retention. And the other thing you can see is about not just that every Microsoft 365 user is protected, but also take a look down below at the individual VDC licenses. You'll see that I have 27 again as my number, and they are all protected, and with 20 of them licensed and 7 of them with no license required. So again, I have a really good compliance view right out of the box. And when we were talking about the Olympics and how speeds have increased, and then I told my old IT stories of data growing, and back in my day mailboxes were small and things like that. Take a look at this. I really like this because at a glance I can see who are the big consumers in my Microsoft 365 environment, and I'm actually ashamed to say that I myself am the biggest user in this lab, but I would expect so. There's a couple things I do in this environment that explains it, but again, that impacts my backup, that impacts my data compliance policies. Everything is visible by that. Right at a glance, you get a lot of very actionable information here. Now, one of the other things I want to highlight about Veeam Data Cloud before I get into the MBS integration, Howard and Jeremy both had questions about Teams. And I'll jump briefly back to the slides to show you something, because the Microsoft backup storage was very much on these 3 services: Exchange, SharePoint, and OneDrive. Whereas, well, what about Teams? I heard Veeam talking about that for years. Well, the reality is, yes. The nature of this integration is both leveraging Microsoft Backup Storage for the top 3 services in the green box here, as well as Teams for the existing Veeam technology. This is the classic example of better together that you hear in IT lore. So if I take a look at the Teams backups under management by Veeam within Veeam Data Cloud, I have that data right here. So Howard and Jeremy, to your question, Veeam Data Cloud, yes, can back up the different Teams data, but if I take this potential group here, and if I want to restore it, one thing I can tell you right away is that this is, and if I got to get my terms right, this is a express restore. This is the native Veeam capability. I'll go back here so you can see what I'm talking about. I had it wrong. It's a flex restore. I had to check. I'm going to get this wrong, Russ. I apologize. This type of restore, a flex restore, I can tell right away that this is a flex restore because these options are the standard set of options that I would get with Veeam Backup from Microsoft 365, which is powering Veeam Data Cloud from Microsoft 365. So hopefully, Jeremy and Howard, that answers your question. But let me show you the new stuff. Again, Veeam Data Cloud in market now, been fully Veeam branded since February 29th, based on an acquisition October 3rd of last year. If you are keeping score at home, once we see this 1.60a, that means that that environment is supported for MBS, Microsoft Backup Storage. And I should also highlight for everyone, especially those of you who are considering Veeam Data Cloud, you may have gone to Help Center for Veeam product documentation. Please note right there, number 2 on the list is Veeam Data Cloud. So you can get product documentation in a standard format that you're used to as a Veeam portfolio customer. You can get that information off Help Center, helpcenter.veeam.com. Now, what I want to show you here is in backup policies. Again, this is a lab. I've done some janky stuff. Please disclose that. But I do want to highlight that if you look at job type right in here, backup would be a backup that would provide restores that would align to the flex options that Russ was explaining just a second ago. MBS policies, you'll see I have OneDrive, Exchange, and SharePoint, which are those 3 services that are supported for Express. So these are using the special APIs and storage capabilities that come to us from Microsoft Backup Storage. And just to show, I have a couple of them here, but if I was to make something, for example, you get this option right away. Okay, so a Express policy, which is Microsoft Backup Storage aware, and you can mix, as I've done in the other panel, you can see. The Express policy, I'll walk through that real quick. I'm going to pick up, say, the SharePoint items. Now, I already have them all backed up. That's a safeguard. So I may or may not have demoed this 2 other times already. But the thought is I already have one made, but if I did, it would allow me to check it. But you see I've got the 3 MBSs right here. So in whichever order, SharePoint, OneDrive, and Teams are all right there, already protected. Now, when you look at this, this is super clear to me that this Flex and Express can be intermixed. And honestly, again, going back to this slide real quick, the chart here, I really like this one. My thought here is we want to protect all 4 services. We would have to have, in a perfect world, 3 Express jobs and 1 Flex job. That's assuming there's no special organizational requirements. Now, all of that being said, when you look at the backups under management by Veeam, let me go into SharePoint, for example. And I'll show you again the Teams example just to reiterate it. If you have a SharePoint site, so here's a SharePoint site. I'm going to take my whole team site. Okay, let's see if I can get this right. So what I have here is one SharePoint site, and if I have the option to do recoveries. Okay, when I do those recoveries, this right here is going to take a look at what's under management by Veeam and give me the options for Express or Flex. So Express would be that whole Microsoft Backup Storage powered restore right here. Or if I wanted some of the more granular selective options, I could do the Flex restore. So I have this both on the backup and the recovery fully integrated with the Microsoft Backup Storage. Now, again, take a look at this right here just to remember, restore options are to select the mode. Very similar to how we build the backup policy with either Flex or Express. And it will always end up depending on the data source. So if I go over to Teams, and this isn't a Veeam limitation, I should really highlight this. The Microsoft Backup Storage capability at this time is only offered for the first 3 services. So this is actually a very important move for Veeam Data Cloud to have good solid options for more. And you can see that this recovery option is different. I don't have the Flex or Express set of options. This is a regular Veeam backup from Microsoft 365 backup of Teams under management by Veeam Data Cloud with all the same options. And I should highlight, I saw a couple of people in the chats asking about different capabilities. And one of the things that comes up a lot for me is some people don't like some of these other options down here. Okay, if you're in a highly sensitive environment, or if you have a help desk role, I'm not a help desk role, but a help desk role would be recoveries only, for example. Then you can get into some of these roles here. You can get into, like, let me see if I can zoom in here, right here. Like if you are a help desk, so that's the role I'm looking at here. If you are a help desk, you're blocked on the ability to download and restore things to other places. You could even turn that off. So any type of previewing, you could just get into very, very granular controls here. Again, I think that's really powerful. And the last thing I want to highlight here is to engage Microsoft Backup Storage. There has to be this linkage here that's done. So once that's done, then you can consume those other ways. So this is a quick preview of Veeam Data Cloud with the Microsoft Backup Storage. A couple of questions have come in here. I have seen, I'm going to take Andy's question about multiple domains. Yes, you can do multiple domains indeed. Worst case, you have multiple consoles, but You could absolutely do that. All right, so I'm going to switch back out of demo. And Russ, talk me a little bit about how this works from a packaging standpoint.
Oh, great. Thanks, Rick. I got a little taste of the Q&A panel while you were presenting. We're getting some great stuff in there. So thanks, everybody. Keep them coming. We're doing our best to answer everything. I'm going to go to a slide here next that is the same slide I showed earlier, but I'm glad we're covering it again because we've had a few of these same questions pop up in the Q&A panel. So just want to make sure that everyone fully understands. So when we talk about Microsoft 365 backup storage, this is essentially the third-party integration. This is Microsoft's backup solution embedded inside of Veeam's technology and inside Veeam's UI. So getting a lot of questions of what's the difference between Microsoft's new product and what you're talking about today? And the best way to describe it is Microsoft's product is Microsoft's product inside of Veeam's technology. Same thing. But you get the inherent benefits of one, the technology that's already been built into Veeam Data Cloud I talked about earlier, role-based access controls, dynamic policies, some other things on top of that part on the left that's proprietary to Veeam. And then you have everything on the right, all of the different use cases that you need to grab certain pieces of data and restore it back in certain ways, support for teams, as Rick talked about earlier, right? All of those capabilities are not in Microsoft 365 backup storage, but are included inside Veeam Data Cloud. So hopefully that answers the question. One other question that I saw in there a few times was, well, can you mix and match? Or, if you get premium, can you essentially back up that one user twice? And the answer is yes. So we know you're going to come up with all kinds of scenarios of, well, I want Express for these users, or I want Flex for those users, or I want premium for some, but not for everybody. I'd rather have Flex for the rest. We have built our licensing model around those options for you, so you can kind of mix and match the different plans to meet the needs of your business. So hopefully those questions that came through Q&A and what you see on screen really helps solidify some of that information. Last section, just a few quick slides here that we wanted to show you as takeaways for today. And actually, before I get there, one of the other questions that we had come from Q&A was, well, what's the difference between Veeam Data Cloud and Veeam Backup for Microsoft 365, right? It sound like they're about the same thing. Few tiny word differences there, but what they are is vastly different. So what we've talked about mostly today is our new backup service, Veeam Data Cloud for Microsoft 365. This is where the infrastructure and the updates are managed by Veeam. You have unlimited storage built in, and you are still in control of creating your backup jobs and doing your restores. This is a backup service, right? In the middle, you see your traditional self-managed and deployed backup software that Veeam also sells to customers, Veeam Backup for Microsoft 365. So Drago is going to pop in a minute and talk a little bit about the ability to use your own storage, and based on certain countries, you might have certain data sovereignty policies, right? So, maybe backup software and manage yourself is the way to go. Or if you want a hands-on approach, but you don't really want to do it yourself, you'd rather outsource it. We have a great network of Veeam Cloud and service providers that have a competency and an expertise in Microsoft 365 backup and data protection. So they can do it for you. They can manage it on your behalf. So, at Veeam, there's lots of options, different flavors of different things that you might want. But we definitely see a lot of customers leaning towards the backup service option because, there's a lot of things you don't have to do anymore. They're kind of done for you, but you still have that control and access that you need to your own data. So I'll pause there real quick and go to you, Drago. Anything you want to add about these different options?
From my point, actually, you said everything. Like, it's really, we're talking here about the BaaS backup as a service as well. And we're like really going there. And I said from my end, like really, again, I just can't repeat myself. You can have two companies doing the same thing, which have totally different requirements. And it's just great to have the flexibility to choose what you really need for your own company. As you showed earlier in the slide about the Express and about the Flex and and also that you still can handle a backup by yourself or just outsource it, kind of. Um, I think that's with this Swiss knife. I come back to this thing. You have like for everyone something which can be used and which is important. And again, from a Swiss point of view, it's really like freedom of choice, and it's not just the freedom of choice of the location of your backup. It's also the freedom of choice what you would like to do. And also, like Rick showed, like also this customable permissions which you can set to help desk user. I mean, this is great. This is the way to go, and this is actually what, especially in large companies, which you have different roles with different uh, with different yeah, it's live. Sorry, with different roles and the different responsibilities. Thank you. What they have to do, like you're total flexible in this regard, and that's why I say we're really on the right way in this regard. And if you ask me directly, I will still continue using that and my company as well.
One comment, Drago, that you mentioned and Russ made me think about is, and some of the questions here are making me think this as well. If you have very granular needs, like you need to retain everything forever, maybe the middle option is your way. You know, maybe if you have like a lot of different storage use cases, you're in a country that cloud isn't friendly. Talk to a lot of people in like the Caribbean or people in some of the different protectorates in different regions around the world. They don't have cloud regions locally. You know, that's a case for the two on the right. We just want you using Veeam, and the most important thing to note is that in the center, Veeam Backup for Microsoft 365. It is a product. A lot of people have it, are using it now, asking how to move to Veeam Data Cloud. That product powers the other two offerings, and I want to make that super clear. It's not three different backup products for this data. This is one offering that's tooled for these different use cases. So really, really powerful stuff. And, Russ, I think we forgot to say that we have analyst data confirming that Veeam is the most deployed Microsoft 365 backup solution in the world with several million. I don't even know what the number is.
Yeah, it's
Mailboxes
21.
protected.
I look at it
21.
every day.
Every day. 21.
Maybe not every
We're
day.
still having fun. Wow.
I
So,
mean,
yeah, that's awesome.
another point is like if I get asked why we use Veeam, why we don't use other products or the native products from Microsoft itself, is and this is something I like to make an association to Android. If you use an Android phone, you have a native Android on it. Let's call this big company which produced Android, it's Google. If you buy a Google phone with native Android, you always can move away to an Apple iPhone, to any other devices. And this is also something I see by Veeam. You have always an access strategy. And why would you offer this if you wouldn't feel comfortable about your product? And this is also like this also builds trust to my customers to a product. It's not like it's not a data crate. Like once you have Veeam in, you will never ever get rid of it. If you for any reason you have to do that, and you give this opportunity, and this is also actually a trust building thing. And you just said it also, Rick. I mean, everyone who's working in IT knows about Veeam, and not for bad.
Indeed.
Yeah, thanks, Drago.
Yeah, and I think it's also, I mean, I did a quick demo and I tried to pull some of the questions in, but this is pretty cool, Russ. Tell me about this view.
Yeah, so this is, something easy you can share with your coworkers if you want. This is kind of a self-guided walkthrough where you can click through and get a feel for the product and share it with others. Something you can do in just a few minutes. If this is something that you're interested in taking a look at, go ahead and grab that QR code and take a look at that. On the next screen, just a few other things we wanted to share with you as key takeaways for today. The next one is if you want a private demo, if you want to contact sales and have a much deeper conversation about your specific environment, go ahead to this link or this QR code, fill out this form, and we have a team of people standing by that will be reaching out to you to have one of those one-on-one conversations if that's something that you would like to do. And last but not least, I think a few people brought this up in chat questions where they were trying to determine the difference between Flex and Express and Premium and what's in what, but not in the other. We have a table built straight onto our website where you can open these little plus arrows and see, more detail on what's in what and how it works. So there is a comparison chart that you can get your hands on to better understand that.
All right. Well, we are going to do some popcorn questions. In fact, I'm going to take Craig's. I'm typing an answer, Craig, but I just want to hit this one up right now. Russ, correct me if I'm wrong. Craig's question is, can I buy Veeam Data Cloud directly, or do I need to go through a reseller? You can go direct for this one.
Yeah, so you can buy directly through the Azure Marketplace. You can go through a reseller. You have options. So if you're on our website and you find the Veeam Data Cloud page, you'll see a link to how to buy. And then on the how to buy page, we kind of explain those different options for you. So it's completely up to you.
Jonathan brought up a comment about the QR codes are cool, but I'm watching on a laptop and I don't want to pull my phone out. I agree with you, John, by the way. That bugs me. So I am all about the short URL, the QR code, and the full pushed out link. I don't know, but I can just tell you, John, if I'll take the URL that we have right here. I'm going to copy
Throwing
that.
some in chat right now myself, Rick.
So maybe push that over to John real quick. Probably not a good idea for me to go figure it out while I'm sharing the screen, but I'm with you, John. All right, next question. Seha wants to know, is there a Canadian DC for the storage? I got a couple of members of the engineering team on, but I believe every Azure region storage has this offering in every Azure region. So I believe that's a big tent. That's absolutely we got from John, so thank you. I believe that was a yes, I thought so. All right, a couple other, anything you want to add to that one, Russ?
Well, I was just going to say, you get to choose where you want to put your data, what Azure region. Also, something that Drago talked about earlier was the exit strategy. So let's say you don't want to keep your Veeam subscription anymore. You can export your data to your own Azure tenant and then still back up that data with Veeam Backup for Microsoft 365 Community Edition for free after that point in time. So I just wanted to connect those two pieces.
Aaron asked a really good question. I have to retain for 20 years on-prem. I'm using tape, and I'm changing your question, Aaron, and I don't want to do it anymore. Well, you know what, Aaron? I've got something for you. You got to check out this one right here, Veeam Data Cloud Vault. This one you can put right into your Veeam backup and replication environment and start offloading to an immutable, customer encrypted vault. Right now, you can go right at the Veeam Data Cloud page and do that today in the Azure Marketplace. I did it in I didn't even get halfway through my Jimmy John's number 7 sandwich when I did it. This is that Veeam Data Cloud Vault
Freaky
service
fast.
here. Freaky fast with your cloud storage as well as your lunch. So, Aaron, check that one out. It's built into 12.1.2. You can run that out straight away. All right, we got time for one more question here. I don't know if you see anything you want to or to field, Russ, by chance?
I've already interweaved as many as I can based on taking a quick peek. So anything you got, go for it.
All right. Well, I got one question from Jeff on, hey, can you do a really interesting thing? And I can't say what it is. That's a great idea, Jeffrey, but I don't have a capability that I can share with you at this time. Wink, wink. I'll just say that. All right. Tell me I'm telling you something without telling you something. Let's bring it home here. Hey, Drago, thank you so much for joining us here on today's featured webinar.
Thank you for having me.
Outstanding. And then, Russ, you and I ought to work together more often. You're good times. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, Rick.
All right, everyone. Thanks for watching. This webinar is being recorded. You're going to get a link to replay it as a follow-up, as well as view it at Veeam.com. You know, it all starts at Veeam.com. You can check out all of our product information, upcoming webinars, and get the latest updates for Veeam Data Cloud, as well as product milestones across the platform. Thanks for watching, everyone. That concludes our featured webinar. We'll see you next time.